This chapter introduced us to creating queries with calculated fields, formatting and verifying and correcting calculation results, creating expressions using the expression builder, adding aggregate functions to data sheets, and creating queries with the aggregate functions. To demonstrate what we've learned this week, I'm going to walk you through a hands-on exercise where we use a database that contains data from a fictional credit union to create a query that will calculate how long each manager has worked for the union, then create a second query that's going to summarize each of the customer's account balances, and then lastly create a titles query to show each city and its account balances. I haven't really used Access on a regular basis in the past, so this is all new to me, except the concept of queries and how you put those together seems very similar to queries that I've run in other programs, in that the fundamentals around them, for example, identifying what data you need, where you'll get it from, and understanding how you need it sorted, grouped, and displayed before producing it, seems to apply to all of them. So first, you'll have to ensure that you have the table set up in your database and that the relationships are set so that the data will cross-reference as you pull your queries. To perform this task, which was to use the built-in functions to create a calculated field, I first referenced the information available on the Microsoft site about built-in functions to see what I might use and the syntax that's required to implement it. So on the Microsoft site, they have a whole list of all of the date and time built-in functions. And for this exercise, I chose the date diff function. And then they have all separate information about how it needs to be written and what each one of the statements or arguments inside of the syntax, inside of the function needs to look like. So to use the date diff function to calculate a column that would show years with company, first I had to insert the interval and make sure that I used the correct setting there. And then for date 1, I was going to pull the start date from one of the tables. For date 2, I wanted it to use today's date, so that's a built-in function, the date with the 2 parentheses for today's date. And then the last 2 parts of the syntax are optional, which is what was described on the Microsoft site. So I deleted those and then put in the last part of the equation, which was to divide it by 365 and a quarter, which the quarter accounts for the leap year. So next I wanted to summarize the balances in different ways. So on the datasheet view, the design view of a new query, I grouped the data by first and last name. So in the totals column, you'll see that I added a totals column and then left those 2 columns as group by, but then to show the sum by first and last name, in that totals column, I selected sum in the balances field. And then lastly, I added a sum of all the accounts and displayed that on the datasheet view. And then finally, to show that there's different ways we can view the data, I pulled a third query to show the total account balances for each city. So I used only 2 tables here for this view of the data. In order to show the city, I pulled the city from the customer table, and then I added a total column and then summed the balances by city. And then lastly, displayed the balances by city on the datasheet view of the query.